I'd been driving for hours, trying to find a decent spot to set up camp for the night. My plan was to spend a week alone in the woods, just me and nature. I needed to get away from the city, from my job, from everything. I craved the solitude and the chance to clear my head. As the sun began to set, I finally found a small clearing off a dirt road that looked promising. It was secluded, with tall trees surrounding the area, and I couldn't see any other campsites nearby. Perfect, I thought to myself as I parked the car and started unloading my gear. Setting up the tent took longer than I expected, and by the time I finished, the forest was cloaked in darkness. I fumbled with my flashlight, cursing under my breath as I tried to start a fire. The night air was chilly, and I couldn't wait to warm up beside the crackling flames. Just as I got the fire going, I heard a twig snap somewhere behind me. I froze, straining my ears to listen. It was probably just an animal, I told myself, trying to calm my nerves. But then I heard it again, closer this time. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, crunching on the dry leaves. My heart raced as I grabbed the flashlight and spun around, scanning the trees. The beam of light caught a flicker of movement, and for a second I swore I saw a figure standing just beyond the edge of the clearing. But when I blinked, it was gone. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I huddled closer to the fire, jumping at every little noise in the darkness. As the night wore on, the sense of unease grew. I kept catching glimpses of movement in the shadows, always just out of the corner of my eye. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. Around midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to abandon my plans and pack up, ready to get back to my car and drive home. But as I started to gather my things, I heard a voice from the darkness. "Leaving so soon?" it asked, the tone mocking and sinister. I whirled around, my flashlight beam cutting through the night. There, at the edge of the clearing, stood a man. He was tall and gaunt, with a twisted smile on his face. In his hand, he held a long, gleaming knife. Panic seized me, and I stumbled backwards, tripping over my own feet. The man laughed, a harsh, grating sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You shouldn't have come here alone," he said, taking a step towards me. "The woods are a dangerous place at night." I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I had to run, had to get away before it was too late. But my legs felt like lead, and the man was getting closer, his knife glinting in the firelight. Just as he lunged forward, I managed to break free from my paralysis. I turned and ran, crashing through the underbrush in a blind panic. Branches tore at my face and clothes, but I barely felt them. All I could think about was putting as much distance as possible between myself and the terrifying figure behind me. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out, collapsing in a heap on the forest floor. I lay there, gasping for breath, listening for any sign of pursuit, but the only sound was the pounding of my own heart. Somehow, I made it back to my car. Though I don't remember the journey, I drove away from that place as fast as I could, never looking back. And even now, safe at home, I can't shake the feeling that those woods hold secrets far more sinister than I ever could have imagined. I'd been looking forward to this camping trip for weeks. My friends and I had been planning it for a while, and we finally found a weekend that worked for all of us. We packed up our gear, loaded the car, and set off for the campground. It was a bit of a drive, but we didn't mind. We were excited to get away from the city and spend some time in nature. We arrived at the campground in the late afternoon. The sun was starting to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across the ground. We found our site and started setting up our tents. It was a nice spot, secluded from the other campers, with a fire pit and a picnic table. We gathered some firewood and got a fire going, then sat around it talking and laughing as the sky grew dark. It was getting late, and we were all pretty tired from the drive and setting up camp. We decided to call it a night and crawled into our tents. I was sharing a tent with my friend Jake. We zipped up the flap and settled into our sleeping bags. The sound of the crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl lulled us to sleep. I'm not sure what time it was when I woke up, but it was still dark outside. At first, I wasn't sure what had woken me. Then I heard it again, a rustling sound, like something moving through the underbrush. I sat up, straining my ears. Jake was still asleep beside me, his breathing slow and even. The rustling sound came again, closer this time. I nudged Jake. Hey, wake up, I think there's something out there. He groaned and rolled over. It's probably just a raccoon or something. Go back to sleep. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The rustling was getting louder, and it sounded like it was coming from all around us. I unzipped the tent flap and peeked outside. The fire had died down to embers, casting a faint glow over the campsite. I couldn't see anything moving, but the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Suddenly, a twig snapped behind me. I whirled around, my heart pounding. There, at the edge of the clearing, was a figure. It was hard to make out in the darkness, but it looked like a person, standing perfectly still, facing our tent. "Jake," I whispered, my voice shaking. "There's someone out there." He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "What? Where?" I pointed, but the figure had vanished. I blinked, wondering if I had imagined it, but then I heard the rustling again, and another twig snapped, closer this time. "We need to get out of here," I said, scrambling for my flashlight. "Something's not right." Jake looked like he wanted to argue, but then he heard the rustling too. His eyes widened. "Okay, let's go." We grabbed our backpacks and stumbled out of the tent. The campsite was empty, but I could feel eyes watching us from the shadows. We hurried to the car, glancing over our shoulders the whole way. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking so badly I could hardly get them in the ignition. As we pulled out of the campground, I saw a flicker of movement in the rearview mirror. A figure standing at the edge of the road watching us drive away. I didn't know who or what it was, but I knew one thing for sure. We wouldn't be going camping again anytime soon. I had been looking forward to this camping trip for weeks. My friends and I had been planning it for a while, and we finally found a weekend that worked for all of us. We picked a spot that was a few hours' drive from the city, deep in the woods. It was supposed to be a quiet, secluded area with great hiking trails and a beautiful lake nearby. We arrived at the campsite late on Friday evening. The sun was just starting to set as we pulled in, casting long shadows across the ground. We quickly set up our tents and got a fire going. It was a clear night and the stars were out in full force. We sat around the campfire, roasting marshmallows and telling stories late into the night. The next morning we woke up early to go for a hike. The air was crisp and cool, and the forest was alive with the sounds of birds and rustling leaves. We set off down one of the trails, chatting and laughing as we went. About an hour into the hike, we came across an old abandoned cabin. It looked like it had been there for decades, with its rotting wood and broken windows. "Let's check it out," my friend Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I hesitated. Something about the cabin gave me a bad feeling, but my friends were already heading towards it, so I followed reluctantly. Inside, the cabin was dark and musty. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling and the floorboards creaked under our feet. We explored the different rooms, finding old furniture and rusted tools scattered about. As we were about to leave, I noticed something strange. In one of the back rooms, there was a trapdoor in the floor. It looked like it led down to a cellar or basement of some kind. "Guys, come check this out," I called to my friends. We gathered around the trapdoor, staring down into the darkness below. Sarah reached for the handle, but I stopped her. "I don't think we should go down there," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "We don't know what's down there. It could be dangerous." But Sarah just laughed. "Oh, come on. What's the worst that could happen? It's probably just some old storage space." Before I could argue further, she yanked open the trapdoor and started climbing down the ladder. My other friends followed her, and I had no choice but to go along. The cellar was pitch black and the air was damp and cold. We turned on our flashlights, illuminating the space around us. It was a large room with dirt walls and a low ceiling. In the corner there was a pile of old bones. "What the hell?" my friend Tom whispered, his voice shaking. We moved closer to investigate. The bones were human, and there were a lot of them. It looked like they had been there for a long time. Suddenly we heard a noise from above. The trapdoor slammed shut, plunging us into darkness. We ran to the ladder, but it was gone. Someone had pulled it up and out of reach. We were trapped, in the darkness, with the bones of the dead. And whoever had locked us in was still up there, waiting. We huddled together, our hearts pounding in our chests. We didn't know what was going to happen to us, but one thing was clear. Our camping trip had gone horribly, horribly wrong.